Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo mahabhadanaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namane Gaura Trishe Namah. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabham Sute Pranamami Hari Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasa Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satchivataya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtotarashata Shri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Ashtotarashata Shri Srila Bhakti Rakshak, Sridhar Gosvāmī Mahārāja, and Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtotarashata Shri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja. On this transcendental appearance day of one of the most exalted disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that is Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja. I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams at his lotus feet. And also our great Acharya amongst the four Vaishnava Acharyas, Sri Ram Anuja Acharya. Today is his divine appearance day, so I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams at his lotus feet. I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all of my Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga and to all of my Siksha Guru Varga, and especially Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Gosvāmī Mahārāja, whose disciples are serving him in this household here. And also Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja, and to all of my great exalted God brothers and servants of our Guru Varga, Shripad Bhaktivedanta Madhav Gosvāmī Mahārāja. And I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and to all of the Vaishnavis here in this beautiful assembly. So, what an amazing gathering. I think this group of devotees sitting here today, very unique, very special Vaishnavas. Most of you I know quite well. Some of you I'm newly meeting, but I can see that the Vaishnavas here are very special. And why not? Why will they not be special? This is Navadvip Dham. Is it possible for any person, any jiva in the human body to come to Navadvip Dham and to not be a very special jiva? Is that possible? That's why in the Dham Aparad list of 10 offenses to the holy Dham, one of them is what? To think that the pilgrims who come to Navadvip Dham or come to the Dham are ordinary. I cannot say here. So all the Vaishnavas who have come here, even my God brother, God sisters, I feel so fortunate to be here in Navadvip Dham. I've been telling the devotees how much I've been longing to come back to Navadvip Dham after being captured and put into prison in America. There was a jail sentence, but I got out a little early on good behavior. So I've been allowed to come here. But when I arrived in the taxi from the airport 2 days before Navadvip Parikrama, and I threw myself on the cement there in front of the temple, at that moment I realized, oh, some mercy has come. I can again come back to Navadvip Dham. So how special is Navadvip Dham? We cannot even imagine. Yes, we went on Navadvip Dham Parikrama. Yes, we also read from Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the words of Nityananda Prabhu to Jiva Gosvāmī describing the glories of Navadvip Dham. Also we read from our Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj his Navadvip Parikrama book. So much nectar. We should all understand that it is not possible to come here unless there is some special mercy. Yes. I remember many times traveling around the world with our Gurudev from 1996 till 2010, and coming and going so many times from India, sometimes coming for Kartik, Rajmangala Parikrama, sometimes Navadvip Parikrama, sometimes even a few Puri Parikramas were there, but then going out again, going for preaching and coming back. And especially after the divine departure, Samadhi of our Gurudev, we continued going, preaching, traveling. But I recall how many times I felt that, oh, somehow or other, I'm leaving the Dham now, and I pray that I will be allowed to come back. I thought like this. It's not such an easy thing to come to the Dham. We think it's very easy. We buy a plane ticket and we come to the Dham. But Krishna showed me, yes, because in our world situation on the mundane plane, there were some restrictions, and you're not allowed. Yes, but when my little nephews came there in December, and they applied for their visas to come to Navadvip, then that set a fire inside of me. Okay, now I have to do this. And somehow or other, mercy came. So, I want to spend my life hearing and chanting in Navadvip Dham until this body is finished, which could be quite soon. I want that I will read the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita and bathe in that nectar. That I will read the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat and be completely drowning in all the nectar of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And I want to read Śrīmad Bhagavatam. I've already begun the first canto. Yes. So I pray for the mercy of Hari Guru and Vaishnavas that I can do this. Today is the appearance day of a very great Vaishnava personality. I would not know so much about him if it was not for our beloved Siksha Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja, who told the history of his life. And of so many other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, some of whom I never heard their names before. But this book, My Beloved Masters, I have to say it's a masterpiece. Because without this book, this is a document. We don't have so much like this. The documented life histories of the exalted disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. I can say, of course, we heard a few things about a few of them. But in this book, there's like, 20, 25 different personalities whom Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj personally served them, associated with them, had so many interactions with them. And he has glorified them in this book. The way that he glorifies Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Maharaj is extraordinary. And I did not know the extent of his glories until I read. Also, one other person I want to mention who just completely has captured my heart. You know who that is? What? Bhakti Saranga Gosvāmī Maharaj. I didn't practically know anything about him. He also went to the West preaching. For us Western-bodied, Western-born Vaishnavas, it's very, very important for us to know the glories of the servants and disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who made those initial efforts to open up the Western world to the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes devotees, they downplay the glories of these personalities, because they didn't start a big, huge international movement. But they don't understand what was the situation of that time and how valiantly these personalities came, how expert preachers they were, how they went to very difficult situations and preached unlimitedly. Bhakti Hṛdaya Maharaj, Bhakti Saranga Gosvāmī Maharaj. So, and I think there's one other who also came in the 1930s. I do not remember. But the narration of the glories of Bhakti Saranga Gosvāmī Maharaj completely captured my heart. You all have to read. Such a divine personality. And he was born actually in Bengal in a very high level, Goswami family. They're considered to be like gods, even to this day in Bengal. Right? But when he came, being attracted by the katha of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he moved all of his things from his office and moved into the mutt. And he began to do so many services, especially going out and collecting funds to bring back to the mutt. And the stories that are related in here of the incredible intelligence that he had and his style of preaching and his influence over people, just amazing. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur heard that this personality has come to join Gaudiya Math, tears came to his eyes. It's stated in this book. And he said, Mahaprabhu has sent one of his own. Just imagine. So, if Bhakti Hṛdaya Maharaj would not have gone by the order of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to begin the process of opening up the West, if Bhakti Saranga Gosvāmī Maharaj had not gone, perhaps we don't know what the future would have been in terms of the continuation of bringing this message to the West. But when Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he gave an example that when there's a great general, and this general has his army, And now he wants to conquer over a certain army or nation. So prior to actually making the attempt to send the military forces and everything like that, what do? They do surveillance. You know what that is? What's surveillance?
Check out which group was there, what's not there.
Yes, to send persons internally into that area. Some of them like spies, but they're doing surveillance, right? Without that, you cannot wage the war. So when Bhakti Hṛdaya Mahārāja spent his few years there, and he returned, we actually have a photo. I don't know if it's in this book or this other book, where he's sitting after arriving he's sitting in Bombay train station. I think it's Bombay train station. And there's a group photo taken there. It's a beautiful, beautiful photo. And Srila Vana Mahārāja is sitting with his turban, all effulgent. And sitting just next to him are the very two first Western European-bodied Vaishnavas that he converted and brought with him to India. And one of them named Sadananda. Later he got that initiated name from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He knew Sanskrit. He knew how to speak Bengali. He was such a brilliant personality. He had so much personal association with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, traveled with him here and there. Huh? These are the forerunners. Huh? So, in that photo at the train station, he's in the center of the photo, and then there's so many Vaishnavas around him standing, some sannyasis and brahmacharis, grihastas, they're all big group photo. Over to the right-hand side of that photo, there is a householder Vaishnava, very beautiful looking householder, young Vaishnava, and he's intently looking at Bhakti Hṛdaya Mahārāja. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he told a story in relation to Bhakti Hṛdaya Mahārāja and his arrival back from his preaching. Naturally, they were very curious to know, what was it like? What was it like to be there in the West? Tell us about it. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, I don't know all the devotees, but it was a smaller group. They brought him privately into a room. One of them was my Srila Prabhupada, who was Abhay Charanaravinda Prabhu at that time. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj tells the story that when they asked him, what was it like to be there in the West? Who are the persons asking? Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who was also requested to go to the West, who was the topmost Siddhanta Vid Acharya of the Gaudiya Math practically. And he wants to know, what was it like trying to present this message to them? So in the course of the discussion, Srila Vana Mahārāja mentioned, he said, actually in the West, they ask questions sometimes which are very difficult to answer. Very complicated minds they have. But they ask questions very difficult to answer, he said. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what questions? And then he gave one of them. He told that question. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he took that question and he gave the perfect, complete answer. Any other question? Yes. And he gave 1, 2, 3, whatever, however many, right? Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj answered every question absolutely perfectly. Then when there was no more questions, then our Srila Prabhupada, as Abhay Charanaravinda Prabhu, he stood up in that assembly. And he said, "Today, Europe has been conquered by Asia." Gaur Premanandi. Yes. So how important was this mission of Srila Bhan Maharaj, of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Actually, in this narration here, I'm going to read it, but Rabindranath Tagore, who was so famous at that time, and they had direct contact with him, he mentioned that to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had a discussion with him, and he mentioned to him that only if you personally go to the West, then you will be received so well. You will be able to accomplish so much if you personally go to the West. And then Srila Prabhupada said, "But amongst my disciples, are there some that you can suggest?" And then he pointed out Bhakti Hṛdaya Vana Mahārāja, highly educated personality. Vana Mahārāja. Today we went in the morning to his program, but I got there I didn't hear the katha. So now I'm giving that katha for myself, for my self-purification and all who are here. Are you ready to hear about this glorious personality?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you would know? No? You're not ready to hear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Bhan Maharaj, how did he meet the Gaudiya Math devotees at first in his life? So during his time in college, in university, Śrīmad Bhakti Hṛdaya Bhan Gosvāmī Maharaj, who was then named Narendra Bandhopadhyay, he was an exceptionally bright college student, well liked by both the teachers and the students. He displayed a natural aptitude for drama and for theater. And because he had studied in an English medium, he was fluent in English. Sri Narendra was his father's 10th and youngest son, and he was also very dear to him. After he finished his collegiate studies, his father fell seriously ill, and due to this, some of the family moved from their village, and they rented an apartment in Gandhariyapalli, Dhaka, where his father had been admitted to the hospital and was undergoing treatment. Soon after their move, however, Sri Narendra became aloof from virtually all social activities. He suddenly found himself unconcerned for the affection of his family and friends. Instead, he nourished his increasingly growing compulsion to find a bona fide guru and perform Krishna bhajan and thereby make his life worthwhile. Bhagavan makes all kinds of arrangements for those who sincerely seek after him, doesn't he? Does Krishna make all kinds of arrangements? Have any of you here experienced how Krishna makes all kinds of arrangements for all of his sincere devotees? I think all of you can mention dozens and dozens of examples from your own life. So, Srila Bharati Maharaj is saying, Bhagavan makes all kinds of arrangements for those who sincerely seek after him. And so, around this time, as a result of his powerful Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti. What is that? Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti. From previous life, so much Sukriti has been performed. And Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti is different than Karma Unmukha Sukriti, Jnana Unmukha Sukriti. Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti does what? It brings you to Bhakti and Bhaktas. So he began to think to himself that as a result of his powerful Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti, Sri Narendra somehow came in contact with the devotees of Sri Madhva Gaudiya Math in Dhaka. There, Sri Narendra heard about Srila Prabhupada's extraordinary glories, and before long he decided to set out for Kolkata to have a glimpse of his holy feet on the pretext of picking up medicine for his father. So at Sri Gaudiya Math, Kolkata, Sri Narendra Bandyopadhyay obtained the audience and the inexhaustible affection of Srila Prabhupada, whose powerful Harikatha inspired him to begin a new life. He decided not to return to Dhaka at all, and instead arranged for someone to deliver his father's medicine while he remained at the Math in Kolkata. After further hearing Srila Prabhupada's Harikatha for some days, Sri Narendra Bandyopadhyay requested Srila Prabhupada for Harinam and Mantra Diksha. How long was he hearing the Harikatha? Some days. And then he requested both Harinam and Diksha. According to the verdict of the scriptures, both guru and disciple must examine one another before establishing a formal relationship based on initiation. And therefore, before giving him his sanction, Srila Prabhupada examined Sri Narendra by asking him to compose an article, in his own words, conveying some of what he had assimilated. So Sri Narendra carefully wrote an essay titled Atmiya Ke. What does that mean? Who is one's own? Atmiya. Not Atma Ke. Atmiya Ke. Who really is one's own? Because all of us, we have people in our lives that we consider to be our own, isn't it? Yes? Jai Shri? You have any people in your life you consider to be your very own? So, everyone considers certain people to be my own. So he composed this essay. And although the word Atmiya is generally interpreted as relating to either the gross or the subtle body, Sri Narendra explained it in relation to the soul, in relation to the Atma. That Sri Narendra Bandyopadhyay deeply understood such a grave subject matter in only a short time, it indicates he must have associated with sadhus either earlier in his current life or in previous lives, for it would have been otherwise impossible. Srila Prabhupada was so pleased by Sri Narendra Bandyopadhyay's essay that he had it published in his weekly Gaudiya magazine. Year number 2 tells the issue in July of 1924. In this way, Sri Narendra Bandyopadhyay passed his test. Shortly after, he received Pancharatrik Diksha from Srila Prabhupada and became known as, you know his brahmachari name? Nandasunu Brahmachari. Once he received Diksha initiation from his Guru Pada Padma, Sri Nandasunu Brahmachari constantly strived at every moment to adhere to the concept of Vishrambena Guru Seva. Where is that line from? Huh? Yes, Rupa Gosvāmī. He's telling the 64 limbs of bhakti, right? And Vishrambena Gurur Seva is in the very beginning of that list. What does that mean? Vishrambena Gurur Seva.
To serve the Guru with intimacy.
Intimacy, loving affection, Vishramba Bhav. Vishramba. Not just ordinary. No. So, he now, Nandasunu Brahmachari, he constantly strived to perform such Vishrambena Gurur Seva. He was performing intimate service to Sri Guru without hesitation or without reservation. Sri Nandasunu Brahmachari was never seen diverting his attention from his efforts to serve Sri Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas, and diverting his attention to indulgence and sense gratification for even a second. Is that not a little bit extraordinary? No one saw him for even a second diverted. Now, the next section is preaching under Srila Prabhupada's guidance. So on 29th of January, 1925, the day of Sri Vishnu Priya Devi's appearance, a pilgrimage tour of Sri Gauda Mandala commenced under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. During the expedition, Sri Padmanabha Brahmachari spoke in many places as ordered by Srila Prabhupada, and he executed countless other services for Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, thereby becoming the recipient of his Sri Guru Pada Padma's profuse love and affection. That year, on 4th September 1925, he accepted Tridanda Sannyas at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and he became known as Tridandi Swami, Śrīmad Bhakti Hṛdaya Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja. So this is 1925. How long had he been? Something seems like that. It doesn't tell the date when he came to the Gaudiya Mutt. It doesn't tell
the article is just like a couple days after he joined, right? A few days after he joined, right?
That was the Diksha.
And that was the year 24, right?
24? Was it? I didn't
It was
see.
either 24 or 23.
So it's like, yeah, so his his acceptance, his being offered sannyas by Prabhupada was like 1 year. 1 year after. Amazing.
Diksha within a few days.
Huh?
Diksha within a few days.
Yeah. Yes. So, one of Srila Prabhupada's cherished pursuits was to impart the message of pure devotion through the medium of his spiritual Sat Siksha Pradarshini exhibitions. You know what those were? Sat Siksha Pradarshini exhibitions. Anyone know?
Dioramas?
Yes. Dioramas. Yes. When our Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Mahārāja, first started to live in Mayapur, and a couple of years after, like probably around 1972 or so, 73, a few of the artists came from America to study art and to study Bengali diorama making and what's that called, the doll making. You know, you see that with the straw and the mud and all of that, right? One of them was Bardraj. Yeah. And it is from that they went back to the West, and under Srila Prabhupada's direction and to fulfill his desire, they also started this grand exhibition. They called it the first American theistic exhibition. And they made, I don't know exactly what the materials they were using, but very, very lifelike. You know, dioramas, actual dioramas exhibiting Krishna's pastimes. In Los Angeles, they still have that museum there. And also in Detroit, they made one. And they also connected like different types of technology and like video technology and all of that. That was there at the time. So, in this way, Srila Vana Mahārāja, you'll hear how he involved in this seva. It's very, very significant. So, Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja was significantly involved in designing and decorating the exhibits in Sridham Mayapur, Kolkata, Dhaka, Patna, Kashi, Prayag, and Kurukshetra. He was particularly involved in designing the dioramas of Sri Govardhan and the Saki groves at Sri Radhakunda for an exhibition in Sridham Mayapur. So, and then that same tradition has been carried on where? In our Gurudev Samadhi. Amazing, amazing, wonderful, artistic, from actual Bengali artists. Took them a long time to put that together. And every day we see hundreds of people, and especially during the Gaur Purnima, thousands of people going and seeing this. So this was the plan of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the general mass of people to become acquainted with Krishna's pastimes, Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and all. So, and he played a very key role, Srila Bhan Maharaj. So, revealing the heart of Srila Rupa Goswami after an indication from Sri Guru. That's the title of this next section. Revealing the heart of Srila Rupa Goswami after an indication from Sri Guru. Every solar eclipse, hundreds of thousands of people journey to Kurukshetra to ritualistically take bath in Brahma Sarovara, but the deep import of this ritual remains unknown to the vast majority of these pilgrims. Once, sometime before such a solar eclipse, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja in which he mentioned the following words: Srimati Radhika will soon go to meet with Krishna in Kurukshetra, and so we have some service to perform there as well. That's all he told him. Just those words. So although the message was short and cryptic, Srila Maharaj understood that his Guru Pada Padma wanted him to manifest to the whole world a confidential pastime which previously appeared in the heart of Srila Rupa Goswami by the divine mercy of Śrīmad Mahaprabhu. To this end, during a month-long local fair in Kurukshetra, Srila Vana Goswami Maharaj expertly created an exhibition with dioramas that beautifully depicted the following. Now listen to this list. It's a very complete list. What he was depicting in these dioramas in Kurukshetra. First one, Nanda Baba meeting with all the senior Vrajavasis before a solar eclipse. That was one diorama. Next, the Vrajavasis preparing to depart for Kurukshetra. Next, the deep, dark forests they encountered on their journey being illuminated by the natural radiance of who? Sri Radha's body, which protected them against the attacks of wild animals. Jai Jai Shri! Jai. Next, the Brajavasis meeting with the Dwarkavasis. Then Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda's tearful reunion with Sri Krishna, who burrowed himself so deeply into Yashoda's lap that it appeared as if he were trying to merge into her. Yashoda Maiya Ki Jai. Next, everyone's bathing in the Brahma Sarovara on the day of the solar eclipse. Next, the queens of Dwarka's proposal to donate to Narad Muni Krishna's weight in a precious substance during the solar eclipse. And then Narada Muni's condition that he will take Krishna away with him should they be unable to match Krishna's weight. Next, the queens of Dwarka's prideful acceptance of Narada Muni's proposal, followed by their inability to give him a sufficient amount of gold. Then, the next diorama, they're weeping at the thought of Narada taking away Krishna. Can you imagine? Next, the advice of Mother Rohini to bring all gopis, headed by Sri Radha. Next, Sri Radha replacing all the queen's gold with a single tulsi leaf on which she had written the name. What name? Krishna. Say that.
Krishna.
One tulsi leaf placed there with the handwriting of Srimati Radhika, the name Krishna. She put it there in place of all the gold ornaments of all the princesses. Then the next diagram is showing that tulsi leaf outweighing Sri Krishna, thus establishing that Krishna Nam and Sri Krishna himself are non-different. Then in parentheses, it was the weight of the tulsi leaf that tipped the scale. Now Sri Krishna meeting with the gopis in a secluded place on the pretext of falling ill and their subsequent conversation. We've heard that conversation, have we not? It's there in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Then the next one, Sri Radha complaining to Sri Krishna and his attempt to pacify her. Next, the gopis demonstrating the insignificance of opulence, Aishwarya, in the face of sweetness, Madhurya. Next, the weeping of Sri Radha and Sri Krishna. Next, the gopis pulling Krishna in his chariot back to... The gopis pulling Krishna in his chariot back to where? Vrindavan. And finally, Sriman Mahaprabhu manifesting the mood of Sri Radha while dancing in front of Jagannath's chariot and ecstatically reciting a verse from a seemingly mundane poem. Have you heard this before? That Mahaprabhu was reciting this verse more than once to Jagannath Dev. And what was the mood of Mahaprabhu? That I am Radha, you are Krishna, and we are at Kurukshetra. So now, that shloka, and this is coming to Srila Rupa Goswami's special shloka. Actually, there's a few more of the dioramas. So, what is that verse? Yak komara hara sa eva hivaras ta eva chaitrak shapas te chon milita malati surabaya prodha kadambanila sa chaivasmi tatapi tatra surata vyapara lila vidho reva rodasi vetasi tarutale chetak samutkantate. So this is from Madhya Lila chapter 13, verse 121. So this apparently mundane poetry is being recited by Mahaprabhu. It was very bewildering to the people. They didn't understand. What is Mahaprabhu's inner mood? Why is he singing like a mundane love poem? Right? So what's the meaning of this poem? The setting is that there is a lady who, in her youth, she was next to a river and in the forest. And at that time for the very first time, she met her husband-to-be. And how he stole her heart. But now she's married. And now she's remembering that time. And she's longing internally to again be there with that atmosphere in those moods. So this is the translation of that verse. He who has stolen away my youth is now my husband. These are the same moonlit nights in the month of Chaitra when we first met in our youth. The same breezes from the Kadamba forest are blowing, and the same light, sweet fragrance from the blossoming malati flowers. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover. Nonetheless, my heart is longing for the amorous, love-laden play of our first meeting at the foot of the Vetasi tree on the bank of the river Reva. So, everyone there, and even all the bhaktas who were hearing Mahaprabhu reciting this in front of the Jagannath cart, they could not understand why Mahaprabhu was reciting the mundane relationship between husband and wife like this. But there were two people there who also heard that shlokas, and they understood what was the meaning. Who were those two people? And who's the second one? Swarup Damodar Goswami. Swarup Damodar Goswami knew everything. But when Srila Gurudev would tell us this story, he would say, and the young boy, Rupa Goswami, he heard that. Then what did he do? He went where he was staying. Where was Rupa Goswami staying when he was in Puri? Yes, Siddhabakul, where Namacharya Haridas Thakur was staying. And Rupa Goswami internally completely understood the mood of Mahaprabhu, what was really Mahaprabhu's mood. But he's covering it with this apparent mundane love story. Right? So, the next diorama is showing Srila Rupa Goswami mentally composing a parallel verse that revealed the mood and an intended meaning of Śrīmad Mahaprabhu's poetic recitation. And here's the verse, which not long after he composed this verse, Rupa Goswami composed this verse. And then he thought, oh, I will go to bathe in the ocean. And he took the verse, because at that time they didn't have paper, right? What did they use? What?
Palm leaves.
Yes, they used palm leaves. And they wrote on the palm leaves. So Rupa Goswami wrote this whole shloka on this palm leaf, and then he was going to go to the ocean, so he took that palm leaf, and in the thatched roof, you know, the thatched straw roof, he slid it there, kind of like sticking out only a little bit. Then he went for bathing. And so who came there in the meantime? Mahaprabhu himself came there. With who? Swarup Damodar Goswami and some of the other bhaktas also. And when Mahaprabhu came there, Rupa Goswami was not there. He was soon to come back. And Mahaprabhu suddenly noticed stuck there in the thatched roof. And he took hold of it and he pulled it out. And then he read this. And as he was reading it and relishing it and admiring it, suddenly Rupa Goswami returned, fell at the feet of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu looked at Rupa Goswami and he gave him an affectionate, soft slap on his cheek. And he said, how could you have understood my heart? Like you have entered this private place. How have you done that? You know? So that shloka, Priyasoyam Krishna Sahachari Kurukshetra Militas Tataham Saradha Tad Idam Ubhayor Sangama Sukam Tatapyanta Kelan Madhura Murali Panshamajushe Mano Me Kalindi Pulina Vipinaya Sprihayati. Translation. My dear friend, in this Kurukshetra is that very same Sri Krishna who had secretly engaged in amorous pastimes with me in Vrindavan. I am also that same Radha, and the happiness of our meeting is still the same. But, nonetheless, my heart is yearning for that very forest of Vrindavan situated on the banks of the Yamuna, where Sri Krishna used to continuously engage in pastimes and play the fifth note on his charming Murali flute. So in this way, Srila Bhāna Mahārāja depicted this in this exhibition. He was not told by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati which exhibitions to make like that. Simply he was told, very soon Srimati Radhika will come to Kurukshetra. We will have some service that we have to perform for her. So then, these are the last two diorama exhibitions. The next one is Srila Rupa Goswami later writing this verse on a palm leaf and keeping it in the thatched roof of his bhajan kutir. And the final one, Srimad Mahaprabhu's ecstasy upon finding and reading that verse and his admittance that Rupa Goswami was able to understand his heart because he had previously blessed him. Mahaprabhu had blessed Rupa Goswami. Where? Prayag. How many days did he teach? Did he give his siksha to Rupa Goswami in Prayag? About 10 days. What about in Varanasi? Sanatana Goswami. How long? 2 months. But Rupa Goswami, 10 days. And from those instructions, Rupa Goswami wrote the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, and Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, and so many others. From those 10 days of instruction from Chaitanya. So, now, Srila Bhāna Mahārāja, next to each diorama exhibit, Srila Bhāna Goswami Maharaj placed a brief description, and he also posted a devotee there, next to each diorama, to further explain its depicted pastime. Srila Prabhupada was highly pleased by this arrangement. All those who attended the exhibition were endlessly grateful to have learned the real purpose of visiting Kurukshetra during a solar eclipse. So it is exceedingly difficult for a disciple to understand the intentions of Sri Guru, who, being a sincere follower of Shrotavani, the teachings of the Vedas, which are often conveyed indirectly, he relishes parokshavad, or indirect speech. So it's not so easy to understand such Guru. And that was what he gave his message to. We will have some service to perform. So only his antaranga disciples are capable of understanding the true intended meaning of his words. So the term antaranga, or internal, it refers to one who has proven himself to possess such firm faith that Sri Gurudev relies on him completely and without hesitation. And he allows him to enter into the innermost chamber of his heart. Very rare. Is this rare or not for a disciple? Very rare. Очень редко for the Russian devotees. So because Srila Vana Goswami Maharaj was an intimate antaranga associate of Srila Prabhupada, he understood the true meaning of his Gurudev's mysterious instruction, and he was thus able to serve him in a way that fulfilled his heart's desires. Now the next section is titled, His Natural Talent. What was his natural talent? Srila Vana Goswami Maharaj had a natural, God-gifted talent for public speaking, which flourished even more by the mercy of the Venerable Srila Prabhupada. He could speak without pause for hours on end in Bengali, in Hindi, and English. Srila Prabhupada awarded him with the title Vagmi Pravara, Vagmi Pravara, which means the greatest of orators. Through his mastery of language and his deeply devotional lectures, he connected many people with Srila Prabhupada. And while delivering Harikatha, his eyes would move continuously like a gramophone. What does that mean? A gramophone, what was it? It's like a record player, isn't it? A gramophone, it used to have this little horn that came up. In the old days, it didn't have a speaker, it had this little horn that came up, right? To amplify the sound. And I think they had to to make it go around like that. So anyway, his eyes were moving like a gramophone. So, yes, he often spoke for hours on end, yet he never suffered from issues with his throat, medical or otherwise, up to the very end of his life. Oh, what amazing. Now, carrying on his head the gracious blessings and the orders of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vana Gosvāmī Maharaj constantly preached Sri Sri Guru Gauranga's divine message of pure devotion all across India, from the Bay of Bengal to the Indian Ocean to the Himalayas, with dauntless enthusiasm and total fearlessness. By Srila Prabhupada's boundless mercy, Srila Mahārāja assisted in establishing Gaudiya Math branches in various places in India, including Madras, Kabul, where Srimad Mahaprabhu met Sri Ramananda Roy, Kashi, Naimisharanya, and Kurukshetra, thereby rendering an invaluable service in propagating the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. So is it any wonder that such a personality would be selected to be the first preacher to be sent to the Western countries? You know, when he was there, I don't know if it mentions it here, because that's coming up right now. I lose track of time, but like, I'm here, you want to stay? As long as you want to stay, I'll continue. But I know that our hosts, they also have some desire to receive prasad. Did you know that? This was in the story of Ramanujacharya, that in those days they didn't say that they wanted to give prasad to the Vaishnavas who they would invite to their house, that they would receive prasad. You know how that was expressed? They would feed the Vaishnavas and then they would take their remnants. And Ramanujacharya's wife did something very, very bad, because there was one very great Vaishnava who came there, and Ramanujacharya was not there at home yet. He was delayed in his return. And so his wife looked upon that Vaishnava as being very low class, from low class, you know, like untouchable or whatever. So she reluctantly fed him because she didn't want him to stick around at the house waiting. So she fed him. And after he took prasadam and he left, then Ramanujacharya, after he took prasadam, she took that leaf plate and threw it somewhere, and then she washed all the pots that she had cooked in and began cooking again, as if everything had become contaminated. And when Ramanujacharya, when he came back to that house, and he says, where is this devotee? Vadaraj, I think his name was. Where is he? And then, because she was cooking, she had taken bath, she had put on a wet sari, and she's cooking again. And he said, you're only just now cooking? And then she explained to him, no, I already cooked and I already fed him. Now I'm cooking again. And he said, where are his remnants? That was the beginning of the end of their relationship. Yes. So the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the message of Mahaprabhu concerns Jaiva Dharma. What does Jaiva Dharma mean? Jaiva Dharma means, what is the Dharma of the Jiva? Jaiva Dharma. And what is that? The innate propensity that all jivas possess, regardless of the country in which they happen to reside. So following the desire of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada did not want the preaching of this message to be limited to India alone. Thus, he met with Sri Rabindranath Tagore, who had recently returned to India after receiving a Nobel Prize in the West, and then he asked him, in your opinion, to which Western country should we first send preachers to spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So who's asking him this question? No. Who's asking him this question? Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada is speaking to him. And he's asking him. So what was the reply? He's asking which country should we send preachers to preach this message of Mahaprabhu? And then Rabindranath Tagore said, none. He said, many unscrupulous persons who earlier visited these places to preach Vedic Dharma have tarnished the image of sadhus. And as a result, Westerners have lost faith in Indian saints. That's what was being faced at that time. The Western impression. Vivekananda and these Mayavadis and so forth, right? But so many came. So he told Srila Prabhupada, I can't suggest any country, right? So Srila Prabhupada then explained to him Srimad Mahaprabhu's message. In other words, he preached to Rabindranath Tagore. And in particular, he made cutting remarks regarding the popular sects of the Prakrita Sahajiyas, or the mundane sentimentalists who believe Sri Bhagavan is attainable through material means. So after attentively hearing everything, Sri Rabindranath Tagore asked to Prabhupada, what exactly does the term Prakrita Sahajiya mean? He says, I have never heard it, nor have I seen it in any dictionary. Prakrita Sahajiya. If you ask any devotee, any Western devotee, what is a Sahajiya? What will they tell you?
Someone who's pretending to have some law.
Yes, right. But actually the name or the word Sahajiya, it means natural. Sahaj. Natural. Prakrita Sahajiya. And Rabindranath Tagore had not heard that word before. What is the meaning? Prakrita Sahajiya. And so then, Srila Prabhupada explained, the word Sahajiya is a highly sacred term. It's very sacred. It refers to those truly pure devotees of Sri Krishna whose hearts are filled with a spontaneous, unconditional love and affection for Him that does not depend on the statements of scriptures that glorify Him as Bhagavan. The eternally perfect residents of Braja, like Sri Nanda, Sri Yashoda, Srimati Radharani and others, they are shining examples of such Sahajiya devotees. So remember this when you use that term. Because devotees talk about this sometimes. Oh, they're all Sahajiyas. But the real Sahajiya is Nanda, Yashoda, and the Brijbasis. Why? Because their love is natural, spontaneous affection. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada is explaining this. So he's explaining. So, nowadays, many unqualified conditioned souls, they try to imitate the moods of these transcendental personalities by deceitfully imposing such moods on their own character. Superimposing on their own mundane, materialistic desires. And they try to imitate. So, therefore, I use this word Prakrita Sahajiya to refer to such persons because the prostitution of words, that is, grossly misrepresenting the true meanings of words in order to support one's vested interests has now become common practice. These days, the vast majority of people are incapable of understanding the actual imports of words, and so perversions of terminology often remain unchecked. So now, Sri Rabindranath Tagore, who nowadays here in Bengal, what do the general mass of people think of Rabindranath Tagore?
Famous poet.
Famous poet.
Vishnu Kavi.
Yes, Krishna Kavi.
Vishnu
Nobel
Kavi.
Prize winner.
Vishnu. World.
Oh, Vishwa
universal-
Kavi. Yes. He went to the whole world. He won Nobel Prize. He's such an exalted saint. Right? So anyway, Srila Prabhupada asked Rabindranath Tagore his opinion because he knew that his opinion carried a lot of weight. So now Rabindranath Tagore, being captivated and moved by Srila Prabhupada's presentation of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, he said to Prabhupada, he said, "It is only if you yourself visit the Western countries that great success in preaching will be assured. Everyone will surely greet you with honor." Then Srila Prabhupada replied to Rabindranath, he said, "If I choose to send someone, it will be someone equally as qualified as myself," he told. So Srila Prabhupada was so proud of his worthy disciples' accomplishments that he resolved to send them across the oceans to the west. And thus he determined to send Srila Vana Mahārāja and my Guru Mahārāja, who was then named Sri Hayagriva Brahmachari, for in his opinion, their personal conduct and their ability to deliver the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as presented by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mirrored that of his own. However, Guru Maharaj was prevented from going to the west, not only because, we're talking about Bhakti Dayata Madhav Gosvāmī Maharaj. He was prevented, not only because he was needed in India for his expertise in preaching, and also his ability to maintain Srila Prabhupada's mats through collecting sizable donations, but also because some of Prabhupada's disciples, they felt that his effulgent, youthful beauty made him a target for the affection of Western women, who had no understanding or appreciation of the celibacy of Indian sadhus. Thus, Sri Śrīmad Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Goswami Maharaj was sent in his stead. That's the third person, Bhakti Pradeep. He was elderly at the time. He was the one who was also the disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I think he took Harinam Diksha from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah, and later sannyas from Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta. So I'm not going to go too much longer because I can sense that devotees are wondering what will the time frame be. Yes? Okay.
And actually, Mahārāja, I have a meeting I have to be at, like for my parents' house, and they said I can't do it tomorrow. I have to be there before 9 o'clock.
You mean on the phone?
No, like I need to be in person.
Physically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the house tax.
Oh, you are excused for your continual non-stop 24-hour seva.
This is
Okay, I'm just going to read a little bit more. Yeah, there's a lot more, but I'm only just going to read a little bit more. We're getting near the end of the article, but I'm just going to read about how he preached in England and in Germany. Okay, and also there's just a little section that says he renounced even the renunciation for the service of Srimad Mahaprabhu. So how is that? Now, Srila Prabhupada once asked Sri Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushan Prabhu, who was the secretary of Prabhupada, to buy an expensive pair of shoes for Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Who asked who? Prabhupada asked his secretary Kunja Bihari to buy an expensive pair of shoes for Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, who, out of his natural renunciation, never wore footwear during his stay in the mutt. Shri Kunja Bihari Prabhu then brought those shoes, which cost 32 rupees, a considerable expense at that time, to Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, with an instruction from Srila Prabhupada to appear before him wearing those shoes. So 30 rupees in 1928. How much compared to now? Tens of thousands. Yes, probably. Yeah, because even a paisa and a fraction of a paisa could maintain an entire family with rice and everything for a whole month. So, 32 rupees. Okay. So he ordered him to appear before him. So when Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja abided by this instruction and he came before him wearing the shoes, Srila Prabhupada declared, "Today your renunciation has achieved perfection." What did he say? Today your renunciation has achieved perfection. Why is that? Because you have renounced even your renunciation for the service of Śrīmad Mahaprabhu. We can learn from this. Sometimes devotees, they impose some self-renunciation principle. I'm not telling names at all. But it's not exactly what Guru wants. Guru wants something different. So in this case, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur showed how Bhakti Hṛdaya Mahārāja was willing even to simply immediately, although he never wore shoes, but now Prabhupada is instructing, wear these expensive pair of shoes. Now, during Srila Prabhupada's previously mentioned conversation with Sri Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Rabindranath Tagore suggested, if you are going to send your preachers to foreign countries, it would be best for them to first go to Germany and not to England. This is because the German people are interested in our Vedic Indian philosophy, whereas the English have a superiority complex. Why? Why they have a superiority complex? Oh, these are our peons. We have ruled over these people for the last 200 years. Like that. The ego of the British. Horrible, horrible. So, yes. So they consider us to be their subjects. And they feel that we are inferior to them in every respect. They will not listen to your preachers, nor will they appreciate their message. Because at that time, in the 30s, they were still ruled by British India, by the British in India. So when Srila Prabhupada mentioned this to Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, Srila Maharaj told him, he answered to Prabhupada, we must first preach where there is more difficulty. Who also used to do that? Huh? And Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Yes, Param Gurudev. So he said, we must first preach where there is more difficulty. It is only when we are successful there that we will move on to places where success is inevitable. I do not wish to waste the wealth of Śrīmad Mahaprabhu's service on mere sightseeing. So appreciating his view, Srila Prabhupada first sent him to England and later to Germany. In England, Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja preached the message of Śrīmad Mahaprabhu at the universities of Oxford, Cambridge, and Exeter, as well as at various establishments in London. At Oxford, he was invited to speak for just 15 minutes. But in that brief period, he so impressed his audience that he was invited to Buckingham Palace to address the Royal Assembly there. with the grace and the permission of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja established the London Gaudiya Mission Society, and the Secretary of State for India, Lord Zetland, attended the inaugural ceremony as chairman. And then a number of affluent members of London high society, being deeply interested in the notion of a true religion, they initiated correspondence with Srila Prabhupada, and they posed various questions to him. The London Gaudiya Mission Society's main topics of discussion were Srila Prabhupada's answers, which arrived weekly in London by air mail. So when Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja wanted to preach in Germany, he was advised against speaking in English due to the political tensions. He was given the option to speak either in his native language through a German translator or directly in German. Thus, Srila Maharaj opted to learn German, which he accomplished in only 6 months. After which, he composed 2 books in German language. As in London, his preaching in Germany met with great success. Did you know that? Those of you who are from Germany? Did you know that? Now you know. He delivered addresses at universities in Königsberg, Leipzig, Dresden, Berlin, and Munich, and was even invited to speak in cities in other countries, including Prague, Vienna, and Paris, where he was given special regard by His Majesty, the former Kaiser of Germany. So upon Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja's return to India, in December of 1936, he was honored and celebrated by many distinguished Indian intellectuals of the time. He brought with him 2 German devotees who were eager to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. One of these individuals later became known as Śrīpad Sadananda Swami. Thus, it was due to Srila Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja's preaching efforts that Srila Prabhupada commenced the initiation of Westerners into Gaudiya Vaishnava Dharma. So he is our senior god brother in our line. Yes, so there's one more story that I heard. It's not in this book. But you know, although the name Adolf Hitler has become a bad word, and people have so many opinions, but that's also been caused by very much untrue recording of the true history. But at any rate, I'm not going into that. He had a very strong interest in the Vedas, in Sanskrit language. He sent his scholars to India to bring back Vedic literature. And Srila Prabhupada personally told Hitler was not bad. He said Hitler was good. And so did Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So I researched it, but I'm not going to tell about that. At any rate, guess what happened? Guess what happened? Srila Bhan Maharaj got an audience. This is prior. This is like in the mid-1930s, you know, and he came to power around that time. So he got an audience with him for 15 minutes because there was only allowed, when anyone would meet with him, his secretary would come in and say 15 minutes is gone, like that. But he continued to dismiss his secretary like 3 times. He was so interested to hear what Bhan Maharaj was preaching. So that's a controversial matter. But at any rate, Bhan Maharaj was such an amazing preacher. And it's not only there that he preached. There's a whole list that Srila Bharati Maharaj gave of, in subsequent years, how he went to so many other countries. And then even in the 70s, he went to America, and actually in the 1940s, he also went to America and preached in different parts of America. And in the 1970s, he also went and gave many lectures here and there. So, so now the time is gone. And I'm just happy that I got to tell some of the glories of Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Vana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, who really paved the way He was one of the persons that paved the way. And of course, like I said, Bhakti Saranga Gosvāmī, he came a little later. He came also on his own. And at that time, he hadn't even taken sannyas yet, but Prabhupada sent him there. And he was alone in England when he received the news that Srila Prabhupada had left this world. And did he come back to India all of a sudden? No. He stayed another 6 months preaching there, all alone. So, you know, the greatness of Srila Prabhupada's disciples are really, truly unlimited. So many of them, all in their own right, have so many glories to recount. So in this way, I'm praying at the lotus feet of Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Mahārāja. Today we got to meet one of his very senior disciples who's like 95 years old. He's practically in perfect health and very amazing Vaishnava personality, very absorbed, very deeply absorbed, 24 hours a day. His godbrother actually was telling me as I was leaving there all the glories of that Vaishnava personality, Bhakti Swarupananda Bon Maharaj. They're all named, he gave the name Bon Maharaj in his. Like we have Bhakti Vedanta, but they have the actual sannyasi name, they're all named Bon Maharaj, like that. So, my beloved Srila Prabhupada, utilizing the energy that was already put forward, became completely absorbed in carrying out the message that was that was conveyed to him in his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada. That you are all young, intelligent, educated young men, you should preach this message to the whole world in English language. So, for so many years, my Srila Prabhupada, he struggled to practice by writing articles, and there's just a whole long history. Started Back to Godhead magazine, printed it, published it, distributed it, went to the tea stalls in where he was staying. And in this way, Srila Prabhupada continuously strived up to the time when Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was staying with him in his house in around 1954, around that time, in Calcutta. And it was, Srila Prabhupada came in the middle of the night and woke up Srila Sridhar Maharaj and said, Prabhupada just came to me in a dream. And he's telling me to take sannyas. He's calling me and telling me to take sannyas. What should I do? So he consulted with Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who said, you should wait for some time. Wait for some time. But then, a few nights later, same dream came. Srila Prabhupada came and woke him up and told him again, he has given me this dream. So then, Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Prabhupada discussed it a little bit. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said the next morning, he was gone. He didn't take anything with him. And he left home. And now, gradually he journeyed to Mathura, where he met, where our Gurudev was informed that there was a disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati staying near the Yamuna. Told him his name. Gurudev came there with 2-3 brahmacharis. Prabhu, what are you doing here? Prabhupada had rented a room near to the Yamuna, near Vishram Ghat. And he said, you cannot stay here. You are like our father. You have to come and live with us. And Prabhupada saying, no, I don't want to intrude or, give hardship. No, you must come. And then Gurudev told the brahmachari, take his things, pack all of his things. And by force he brought him to Keshavji Gaudiya Math, where they lived together for many, many months. And Gurudev talks about that. How sweet was their relationship. How Srila Prabhupada and all of his glorious qualities. And Gurudev used to keep on telling him, oh Prabhu, you must take sannyas. You must take sannyas. So when Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj came the next time, then he also told to his Guru Maharaj, please tell Abai Charanaravinda Prabhu that he must take sannyas. Please tell him he must take sannyas. So then Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj also had intimate conversation with him. And then there was one other godbrother in the room who was 92 years old, and his name was Sanatan Das Adhikari, who had recently left home. He was a successful business. Now he's living in the mud, very simple. And so then, as Prabhupada, as our Abai Babu was making up his mind and discussing this, then finally the finishing touch was put by Sanatan Prabhu. And he said, okay, if he takes sannyas, then I will also take sannyas. So then it was decided, and on Vishwarup Mahotsav Day in 1958 or 59, I keep forgetting, 59, he took sannyas in Keshavji Gaudiya Math. And then gradually he began to live in Vrindavan after some time in Radha Damodar temple and translate Śrīmad Bhagavatam, give the purports, first canto. And then he began to make plans how to go to the West, how to carry out this instruction. And at that time he didn't have support, financial support or anything. But he had a couple of contacts, and in this way, eventually, he had also preached with one lady named Sumati Mahārāja. She was the owner of Skindia Steamship Navigation Company. And Prabhupada requested, please give me a ticket so that of passage that I can go to America. And she told him, but what, why? You are a very old man. What will you do there? Well, you will die there. So why you want to do this? Prabhupada said, no, I must do it. My Guru Maharaj has ordered me, I must do it. Oh, okay. She's on a video telling the story, actually. There's a video of her. And then Srila Prabhupada went on the epic journey of all time. This is the epic journey of all time, which for thousands of years into the future, this will be recounted. How this devotee crossed the oceans with heart attacks, with so many problems and difficulties, and how Krishna came. And in a vision, don't worry, Abai, don't worry. Krishna, with his incarnations, they were rowing the boat in front of the ship. And in this way, Srila Prabhupada wrote his epic poem on the Jaladuta. And when he arrived in Boston Harbor, one more poem about preaching in the West. So this is all in the wake of the great preachers who went from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time and did surveillance. And very valuable seva they did. So, Jai Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Shrishila Bhakti Hṛdaya Ban Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Tadi Avirbhav Mahamahotsav Kiti ki Jai Srila Bhakti Hṛdaya Ban Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Jai Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Chapatitanam Pavane Vishnu. Real quick, short Hare Krishna.
I'm gonna
He has to go.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare
Jai Gaur Premanandi. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshava Shikha Krishna Bhakti Nari Sachivachai Namo Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha
So we're going to serve up for Sad now. We're going to just fold these in half. And then we just start it.
This one you can hold it.
Yeah, yes. Wait. You have to share it. When you end it, we'll put you on it.